We're going to talk about things not to quit. So there's some things you need to quit, but don't quit the right things. I'm going to encourage you that. Don't quit the right things. Don't quit on your relationship. Don't quit on your marriage. Don't quit on what God said to do. We started building a business, and the business became successful over time. It really did. We went through all kinds of stuff dealing with people and sales, and Gary would be the top salesperson in our company every month, and it eliminated a lot of excuses because you've got to lead by example. You know, you got to let people see it's possible to do it, or they don't believe it's possible. And so he would just look at people and say, hey, I'm doing it. If I'm doing it, you follow my model, you can do it as well. But inevitably, there'd be people that'd be like, I don't like the way you do it, Gary. I don't like the way your system. And they come up with all these heady systems. They got all these ideas and all this stuff that needs to be done, but they wouldn't make any sales. They'd be too busy criticizing what was working instead of doing what was modeled and just being teachable and coachable. So today, if that's you, you need to change that. You're going to quit. Somebody's going to quit on you. You can't do that. You got to keep staying in there. If you don't stay in there, you're not going to change. So anyway, then when we started pastoring, so our business became successful. And then Gary wanted to pastor, and I felt the call of God was on him to pastor. And he didn't want to do it in the beginning, but when he made his mind up, he made the decision and said, yes, I knew we were in it. I knew, okay, God, we're going to do this and do this right. And my prayer was, Lord, I never want to hurt anybody. I never want to hurt anybody. That's not possible. But that's what I prayed. I was like, God, please, we never want to hurt anybody. And God told me for us to walk in love and to let love be the thing that guided everything that we did. That didn't mean we wouldn't hurt someone because people have hurts inside them. So how can I go around and try to fix everybody and everything? But that's how we started doing church. I thought if we just lead them properly, if we just do the right things, nobody will quit. Everybody will make it to the finish line. Well, even Jesus had someone quit, right? He's a perfect leader. And so we can't expect, those are false expectations. How many of us are feeling like quitting because we have false expectations? We think it's going to happen faster than it's happening, or we think there's not going to be any blood, sweat, or tears. There's not going to be any people that betray us. I've wanted to quit so many times, and I've seen my husband in situations where he wanted to quit. The Bible says two are better than one, because if one falls down, the other can lift them back up. And there's times I wanted to quit. He's like, no, Drenda, God's telling you to do this. You do this. I believe in you. It's your time. You go for it. And there's times he's felt like quitting. I'm like, no, Gary, this is what God said, and this is what you're called to do. And we have to have people around us to encourage us, to remind us when things get hard, get tough, that we don't need to quit, and we don't have to quit, and we don't have to give in. I'm so glad I didn't quit on my marriage. Oh my gosh. I look back at the silly things that I did. One time I was trying to get his attention. I got an empty suitcase, put it at the door, and by the way, I was pregnant, so that explains a lot. He comes home to our apartment. He's been out in the, drudgeries of life out there trying to sell insurance. And he comes home, his pregnant wife standing at the door. And I said, I'm leaving. He's like, where are you going? I said, I'm going home to my mother. And he's like, well, don't you need money or a credit card or something? And I took that as encouragement. That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted him to get down on his knees and go, honey, please don't leave me. He just never got those cues like this. I'm sort of glad, right? I'm glad because I was spoiled. I needed a reality check, and some of us need a reality check. We need to see. God would not get on my pity party at the City of Faith. He would not tell me, you don't have to be a wife, Drenda. Go ahead and go on your way. This was a mistake. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't let me out. When we started pastoring, we actually built the business, and we started building the business. One time, Gary came into his office, and there was a guy sitting in his office with his feet up on his desk, and he said, Gary, now that you've started a church, I see things three ways. You can't keep running this business. You either give it to me, you give it to the company, or some other. What was the third choice? Close it. And it was his play. This guy had a play, like, I'm going to run the company for you, and you're going to give it to me. So Gary said, I have one choice, and that is to fire you. Get yourself out of my desk. Leave my office. Because you don't make my choices, God does. And until God tells me to do something different with my business, then I won't be doing anything different. So anyway, but I wasn't quite so brave. When we started pastoring, I still had a lot of issues with performance and trying to please people and I wanted to be liked. We all want to be liked. liked, right? And I think Southern girls especially, we just want to be liked. It's like if we give you enough sweet tea and we smile and we're nice enough that surely you will like us. But that is not the case. The reality is not everybody's going to like you, like your mission, like your vision. A lot of times they have wrong motives. Ever figure that out? You don't think that because you don't have wrong motives. So you don't smell that out. You don't sniff that out. You don't think, oh, they might actually be trying to sabotage me. They might be trying to stop me. They may not want me to succeed. I never really saw that right away, and it took a little while. We had these two sisters in our church, and it's long gone, and I don't know where they are, so it's all right to probably talk about it now. It's been so many years. But anyway, these two sisters, one of them was really vicious, and you could tell it. She was just she would just snap at anybody, and she was really difficult, and we were always dealing with troubles with her. Her sister was super sweet. And she had just this vindictive attitude, but she covered hers beautifully. And it was actually more dangerous than the other one, right? Because nobody could sniff it out. And so she would go around smiling and loving on people and saying, the pastors really loved you. They would do this for you, but I'm here to do it for you instead. Come to my house. And we have 40, 50, 70, 100 people at that point. And it's like, I can't have everybody over my house. We're in a competition now. How many people can I have to my house? She's having to her house. It's like crazy. I can't even think about doing it. So one Sunday morning, she was always coming in and complaining about stuff. One time, she actually invited a speaker to our church without asking us. They showed up on a Sunday morning, and we gave up the pulpit. That's how weak we were. You may feel weak today. I want to encourage you, don't quit. You're not as weak as you think. We were weaker, okay? We're like, what do we do? Oh, let's show hospitality. So we let them preach, It's like, oh, it was the worst nightmare, too. I don't think they were called or anything. It was just weird. So they were traveling. They were traveling in an RV, and they happened to meet her somewhere, and she invited them to speak at our church. Another time, we did a women's meeting, and she called me and said, Pastor Gary needs to watch my kids tonight because I don't have a babysitter. I was like, okay, What? Bless my husband's heart. He said, don't be that transparent. Some things needed to blow up. He should have blown up on me, right? He should have said, don't you ever say yes to that again. But we could never please this lady. And one Sunday morning, she came up and she started complaining about me. Some of the women are talking, and they think such and such about Drenda. I was devastated. I didn't realize her motive wasn't pure. You'd think I would, but I was trying to please. And when you're trying to please people, the Bible says it's a snare, it's a trap. It's a trap the enemy sets up to stop you from your destiny, to get you to quit. You cannot quit on the right things. You can quit all the wrong stuff. You can quit on the devil, and you can quit on all his lies, and you can quit on the past, and you can quit on mistakes, and you can get rid of guilt and get rid of regret, but you can't quit on God's promise. You can't quit on covenant relationships. You can't quit on what God said to do. Do you want to end the war on sadness? Then click the button right there and subscribe.